Ancient Romans knew three things about travel. It was slow, it was uncomfortable, and it was the perfect recipe for sleep or borrowing tonight. We'll recreate every monotonous mile between Londinium and Ebracum, minus the blisters and dysentery, until your modern comforts feel all the sweeter as sleep arrives. Close your eyes and imagine the creak of wagon wheels, the steady rhythm of tired feet on gravel, the endless stretch of stone road unraveling before you. This isn't some grand adventure. It's the slow, mundane reality of moving across an empire built for marching legions, not weary travelers. Tonight, we move at the pace of history itself. Just follow the sound of that distant donkey braying. Your journey starts now. The donkey's bray jolts you awake before dawn. Your cheek sticks to the pilled wool blanket that smells like every traveler who used it before you. The room is just wider than the straw mattress you share with two strangers. You can hear them, breathing, one wheezing, the other snoring through a deviated septum. Roman innkeepers packed guests in like olives in a jar. Mold creeps up the walls where plaster peels away. There's dampness in the air that never quite dries, clinging to your tunic. You try to stretch, but knock your elbow against the rough hewn bedpost. No candles burn in the pre-dawn dark. You know better than to expect a chamber pot if you need to go. There's an alley out back. Archaeologists find these places by the pottery shards and animal bones tossed in the corners. Guests lodged here left behind more than footprints. Fleas move through the straw beneath you. There might be bedbugs. You'll check for welts later. The inn's owner charged 2 copper coins for this privilege. Some highways had mansionese for officials, but this is a Capona the roadside dive where merchants and peasants bunk together. Someone left half a loaf on the table. You break off a piece. The bread's crust could file down nails. It tastes like it was baked when Augustus was emperor. You chew slowly, knowing this might be all you eat until dusk. The well water has a faint metallic tang from the bucket chain. Travelers complained often enough that we have records of their gripes. The bed was hard as a ship's deck. The wine turned to vinegar, and the owner shortchanged me on change. Rolling up that miserable blanket feels like a small victory. The door creaks as you step into the courtyard where wagons wait. At least 3 other guests slept in the stable with the animals. A slave boy unties your mule while scratching at lice in his hair. Your sandals sink into mud from last night's rain. The sky lightens to a dull gray good weather for walking, if you ignore the thin drizzle starting up. The wagon driver spits into the dirt before hauling himself onto the bench. Wood groans as the wheels turn. There's a wobble in the left one that means another bone-rattling day. Passengers clamber onto the benches behind him. There are no seats left, so you'll walk alongside until your feet give out. The inn's sign sways in the wind, its peeled paint showing a cockeyed horse. Roman law required inns to keep registers of guests. If bandits strike tonight, the magistrate will know exactly who slept here. That's cold comfort as you watch the inn shrink behind you. Smoke trickles from its cracked chimney. Soon the smell of baking bread will taunt other travelers stumbling in from the road. You adjust your pack straps. The left one already chafes. Beneath your tunic, sweat mixes with road dust from yesterday. The wagon's axle lets out a high-pitched complaint with every revolution. 13 more hours of this sound await you. A milestone appears ahead, the numbers barely legible under grime. Only 19,000 more paces to go today. Breakfast sits like a rock in your gut. The drizzle soaks through your cloak as the road unfolds ahead straight, predictable and utterly indifferent to your discomfort. Birdsong filters through the haze. Somewhere ahead, a dog barks at nothing. Your left sandal squelches where the stitching has come loose. The wagon wheel's rhythm starts to synchronize with your footsteps. Creak step, creak step, creak step. At the next bend, you glance back. The inn's lantern still glows in the gray morning. A new traveler pounds on its door, shoulders hunched against the rain. Your feet keep moving. The dawn chill lingers in your bones. Strips of sunlight break through the clouds, sparkling on wet cobbles. The wagon ahead hits a pothole, jostling a sack of grain. Wheat dust drifts on the breeze. You inhale it with the damp earth smell of a Roman morning that smells like every other Roman morning. Somewhere behind you, another donkey brays. Somewhere ahead, the same road stretches to the horizon. Your shadow stretches long and thin across the stones as the creaking wheel pulls you forward. Is twice-baked hardtack that could last for months. Just brown bread made from whatever cereals grew nearby, probably emmer or rye. The baker added bran for bulk, leaving dark flecks that catch between your teeth. Archaeologists find teeth worn down from this gritty diet in Roman skeletons. The water has a faint bloom of algae at the bottom. You skim it off with your finger before drinking. No one serves fresh water at dawn. This came from the courtyard, cistern where scum forms by mid-morning. Somewhere in the provinces, a physician named Galen is writing that travelers should drink vinegar mixed with water to avoid illness. Too bad you left your vinegar at home. A fly lands on the bread. You wave it away, but 5 more take its place. Behind the counter, the innkeeper eats eggs cooked in olive oil. He makes no offer to share. The social rules are clear. He serves food, not hospitality. You examine the loaf's underside. No weevils today. Small blessings. The laws of the 12 tables set punishments for bakers who cheated customers, but no one weighs rations at roadside. Dives. One poet complained that inn bread often had more ash than flour, from the oven floor or the baker's pipe ashes. History doesn't specify. A traveling artisan at your table sprinkles something on his bread. Wild thyme stolen from the hillside, maybe. You consider doing the same, but the herb peddler won't set up stall for hours. The bread's sourness coats your tongue. Natural fermentation, uncontrolled. Sometimes it bubbles, sometimes it doesn't. Today was a doesn't-day dot. Your jaws ache from chewing. Roman dental records show absurd levels of where teeth ground down like old millstones. You wonder how many miles this meal will fuel. A marching legion got a pound of bread per day. You're working with half that dot. The cup leaves a damp ring on. The wood, you drain it anyway. Should have saved a bread chunk to scoop the algae. Too late now. Somewhere in Rome, rich men breakfast on honey cakes and fresh figs. Their slaves bake bread daily in clean ovens. You lick crumbs from your palm. 2 sesame seeds stick to your skin. Probably fell off someone else's meal. Bread this dry needs no plate. You sweep the trencher's dusty remains onto the floor where chicken peck at them. The inn cat watches from a corner, too smart to compete with poultry. Its ribs show through its fur. No one throws good scraps away here. The remaining chunk goes into your satchel for later. It'll be harder by noon, possibly fossilized by dusk. A traveler last week swore he used old bread to patch his sandal. You believe him. Someone's baby cries near the hearth. Its mother dunks bread in milk luxury fare. Your stomach growls again. The military fed troops wheat porridge when bread ran short, but cupola cooks can't be bothered. You run a finger around the cup's rim. The clay tastes like old rain. If this were Pompeii, you might buy fresh bread from a thermopolium. But this is the Via Flaminia, and the next proper bakery is 19 miles off. A rush of cold air hits your back as the door opens. Another traveler enters shaking rain from his cloak. He eyes your empty trencher hopefully. You shake your head, nothing left here. His shoulders slump as he takes your seat. Outside, the mule driver spits out a mouthful of bad bread. Even animals know poor quality when they taste it. You pat your satchel, feeling the loaf's outline through the cloth. Tomorrow's breakfast, if you ration wisely. Tonight's regret, if you don't. The innkeeper's wife scrapes leeks into a pot for someone's paid. Breakfast. The smell makes your mouth water. You tighten your belt one notch and step into the yard where rain pools between uneven stones. Grabbing your pack, you notice a breadcrumb stuck to your tunic. Brushing it off seems wasteful, so you eat it. Distant thunder rolls as you approach the road. Ahead, the first milestone stands like a sentry. The letters Agve are barely visible beneath weathering and graffiti. Some soldier carved his unit here decades ago and kept marching. You adjust your pack straps, the left one still chafes, and start counting steps. The road stretches ahead, damp and shining. Your shadow stretches long behind you as rain drips from your hood. A wagon passes, its wheels throwing mud. You walk faster to keep pace. The driver offers no greeting. His own. Breakfast probably wasn't much better. A marker appears sooner than expected, a squat stone column with weathered numbers. You touch the grooves where some traveler long ago scratched their initials. The road stretches ahead in a dead straight line, disappearing into a shimmer of heat haze. Roman engineers built these roads to last centuries, layering stones like a cake no one would ever eat. Large rocks at the bottom, then gravel mixed with lime, topped with paving stones fitted together like puzzle pieces. The craftsmanship is impressive. The monotony is unbearable. Your shadow shortens as the sun climbs. The road's slight camber makes your left foot land slightly higher than your right with each step. Engineers designed it this way for drainage, but after an hour, it feels like walking on a tilted floor. Every 100 paces, your sandal scuffs against the same type of irregular stone in the surface layer. The Romans called this the pavimentum, which sounds fancier than rocks we didn't bother to smooth out properly. Agroma made this possible. Cross-shaped surveying tool engineers used to plot straight lines across hills and valleys. They'd plant it in the dirt, line up the plumb bobs, and declare straight enough before the laborers moved in. The result is a road that ignores geography like a stubborn child. Your knees notice every incline they refuse to curve around. Another milestone passes. The numerals are clearer here. 2. 2 miles down, only 18 to go before dusk. Roman miles are shorter than ours, about 1,620 yards, but they feel longer when you're counting each one. The markers were supposed to reassure travelers. Instead, they taunt you with how little progress you've made. The next one will look identical, except for the number. And the next, and the next. Your feet find the rhythm of the road's construction joints. Step over a thin gap where stones meet. Step over another. The pattern repeats every 5 feet, matching the standard width of a Roman road, just wide enough for 2 carts to pass. Not that you've seen any carts since the wobbly-wheeled wagon creaked out of sight. The occasional horse dropping tells you someone came this way recently, but the road eats all evidence of travelers within hours. You pass a patch where the top layer has worn away, exposing the ruddice beneath a mix of gravel and concrete that looks like poorly mixed cake batter. Further on, a crew must have made repairs recently. The new stones are slightly brighter, their edges not yet rounded by countless footsteps. They'll blend in soon enough. Everything on this road becomes uniform eventually. The sun reaches its zenith. Your shadow pools around your feet like spilled ink. Heat radiates from the pale stones, cooking the air just above their surface. You step on a particularly smooth stone and imagine some laborer placing it here 800 years ago, never considering the blisters it might prevent centuries later. The Romans built for eternity. They didn't account for how boring eternity could feel. A lizard darts across the road, its path anything but straight. You envy its freedom to zigzag. Your own path has no deviations, just an unwavering line toward a horizon that never gets closer. Military engineers designed these roads for speed, not scenery. Legions could march 30 miles a day on surfaces like this. You'll be lucky to manage 20, and every one of them will look exactly like this stretch. The road's edges slope gently into drainage ditches now choked with weeds. Beyond them, fields stretch empty under the white sky. Occasionally a gnarled olive tree breaks the monotony, but even those start to look identical after a while. You count 17 before realizing you've lost track. It doesn't matter. 18 will be the same. Your pace settles into the rhythm of a Roman work song, the kind slaves might have sung while building this very road. 2 short steps, 1 long. 2 short steps, 1 long. The pattern matches the construction crew's efficiency. They knew repetition was the key to covering distance. You're learning it's also the key to losing your mind. A faint vibration in the stones warns you of approaching hooves before you hear them. A cavalry courier gallops past, kicking up dust that hangs in the air long after he's gone. The military gets to ride. You get to count his horse's droppings as they steam in the sun. The road makes no distinctions between travelers, but people certainly do. The next mile marker has graffiti a crude phallus carved beside the numeral 3. Even ancient travelers got bored. You run your fingers over the carving, feeling the grooves where someone centuries ago felt exactly what you're feeling now. The road stretches ahead, unchanged. Your feet ache identically in both sandals. The sun has moved, but the view hasn't. You adjust your pack straps again. The road doesn't care. It simply continues, straight as a spear thrust, patient as a mountain. It will outlast your journey, your lifetime, your civilization. All you can do is put one foot in front of the other and try not to think about how many repetitions remain. The stones are cool where shadows begin to stretch across them. The air smells like dust and the faintest hint of rain that probably won't come. Another mile down. The next will be the same. The wagon wheel's creak settles into your bones. It hits the same pitch every third rotation, a wooden groan, like a tired servant forced to stand too long. The sound never changes, never speeds up, never stops. You could match your heartbeat to it if your heart hadn't already slowed to match the wheel's pace. This wagon was old when Caesar crossed the Rubicon. The wood shows 3 different repair jobs: fresh oak pegs holding ancient planks together, iron straps patching cracks that run like veins through the frame. The axles oozed grease this morning, but now they've started their dry, rhythmic protest. It's the sound of wood fibers grinding against wood fibers, of iron rubbing raw spots into oak. Roman wagons didn't have suspension. Every pebble telegraphs up through the floorboards. The wheels of the spoked kind lighter than solid discs, but you still feel every joint in the road. Military wagons used thicker spokes, but this civilian model has sticks barely thicker than your thumb. One looks cracked. You eye it each rotation, waiting for the snap that will strand you in the dust. The driver's whip snap and the mule's hoofbeats should break the monotony, but they don't. They just add another layer to the rhythm. Clop, creak, snap. Clop, creak, snap. The mule's left hind leg has a slight limp that syncs with the bad wheel's wobble. You start counting the sequences. 16 rotations per whiplash, 7 hoofbeats per wheel groan. Passing a milestone, you note the wagon takes exactly 43 creaks to travel between markers. You know this because you counted twice. The road here has more gaps between stones, making the wagon lurch in a pattern as predictable as a loom shuttle. Front left wheel dips. Pause. Rear right wheel bumps. Pause. Your spine memorizes the sequence. Someone once carved a groove in the bed plank where you sit, maybe with a dagger, maybe out of boredom. Your finger traces the squiggle while your ears catalog noises. The high ping of a loose metal band, the staccato rattle of the side panel, the deep vibrato moan from the load-bearing axle. Together they play a song older than Rome itself. Dust coats the wheel hubs in thickening layers. Each rotation flakes off a little, creating a fine powder that cakes your sandal straps. The iron rim shows 3 patches where the blacksmith hammered. Repairs. Wagon wheels lasted about 2 years if maintained. This one's on borrowed time. When it finally disintegrates, the sound will leave a silence as jarring as a shouted curse in a temple. You start anticipating the worst spots. There's a dip near mile markers where the left wheel squeals like a gutted rabbit. A stretch of newer pavement makes the whole wagon hum. One particularly uneven stone produces 3 quick knocks in succession. Bam, bam, bang, like a bored soldier tapping his javelin. The driver hasn't spoken since dawn. The mule flicks its ears at flies in the same pattern every time. Even the clouds repeat themselves puffy white today, same as yesterday, same as tomorrow. Only the wheel's song keeps you anchored in time. Its rhythms mark the passage of distance more accurately than the stones at the roadside. You catch yourself mouthing the creaks like words, a long groan for flat stretches, a stuttering hiccup over ruts, the occasional alarming crack that never amounts to disaster. It's the longest conversation you'll have all day. The wheel's complaints grow louder in the afternoon heat as wood expands. You learn the warning signs when the pitch rises. Sharply, a stop for water and axle grease can't be far off. The driver checks the hubs with the practiced indifference of someone who's fixed this problem 1,000 times before. He smears on tallow that'll last until the next watering hole. As dusk approaches, the sounds mellow. Cooler temperatures tighten the wood, changing the wagon's voice from a shriek to a murmur. The rhythm remains, steady as your own breath. Now, creak, step, creak, step. The mule's ears droop in time. Even your blisters pulse to the beat. When a night breeze finally stirs, it carries the scent of someone else's cooking fire. The wagon wheel groans its usual protest. You realize you'd miss it if it stopped. In the gathering dark, its song maps the road better than your eyes ever could. Each rotation wears the groove a little deeper, in the wood, in the road, in hide. Your skull, a mile marker, looms in the twilight. The wheel hits its familiar bad spot right on cue. You mouth the sound before it comes a perfect match. Somewhere ahead, another traveler's wagon answers with its own tired complaint. The call, and response continues as shadows swallow the road. Creak, pause, creak, pause. No answer expected. None required. Your knees ache in time to the bumps. Your shoulders tense before each familiar jolt. The wheel doesn't care. It sings the only song it knows, the same song sung by every wheel on every road across the empire. Unchanging, unchangeable, and utterly indifferent to how many more verses you can stand. The left wheel's wobble has developed a secondary squeak, something internal, maybe a split spoke rubbing against the hub. You'll hear it all tomorrow, and the day after. The wagon won't break down dramatically. It'll just keep whispering its lullaby of subliminal misery until you forget a time before you knew every splinter in its voice. Stars appear one by, one above the road. The wheel creaks, the mule sighs. Another mile disappears beneath the grinding wood. Somewhere far ahead, another traveler lies awake listening to their own wagon song, counting the same rhythms, waiting for the same dawn. The road connects you through time as surely as the unchanging cadence of tired wood on ancient stone. The road stretches empty in both directions. No carts, no travelers, not even a stray dog. Just your footsteps echoing off the stones. The silence weighs heavier than your pack. Even the birds have gone quiet, either too hot or too wise to break. The stillness. This stretch wasn't safe last season and isn't safe now. Bandits like these straightaways, where they can see victims coming from a mile away. You walk faster without meaning to, shoulders tensing at every rustle in the roadside. Brush. 4 hours since you passed anyone. The last was a grain merchant who barely grunted when you gestured for news. Roman roads connect places, not people. Every traveler carries their own silence like a second cloak. Your shadow stretches long and lonely ahead of you, always moving while you feel stuck in this endless now. Even military patrols avoid this section too many blind curves where the brush grows thick. A broken milestone lies half buried in the dirt, its numbers worn smooth. No telling how long ago someone defaced it or why. The air smells like dust and something else would smoke. Too faint to be sure. Imagining smells becomes a pastime when the alternative is listening to your own heartbeat. You start counting steps between mile markers, then counting breaths between steps. The numbers blur together after a while. A scrap of cloth flutters on a bush, maybe torn from a passing cart, maybe left by someone who didn't want to be followed. You don't investigate. Military dispatches tell stories about this stretch. A mule driver found with his throat cut last summer. A tax collector's wagon disappearing near the third bend. Rome builds roads but can't police them all. You pat the knife at your belt. Its weight more comfort than defense. One blade won't stop a gang, but it steadies your hands. The road narrows here, ditches choked with brambles that could hide 5 men. You walk in the center, kicking stones ahead like a child's game. The echoes are your only company. 5 hours now without human speech. Your own voice would sound. Foreign if you tried it. Cicadas start up in the afternoon heat. Their buzz saw rhythm filling the silence without breaking it. You watch your shadow inch along the stones, noticing how your gait has changed shorter strides, shoulders hunched. Solitude alters posture. A scarred oak leans over the road, its branches making shapes that almost look like faces if you stare too long. You don't stare. The remains of a fire pit appears near the 6th mile marker. Cold ashes scattered by wind, a broken cup someone didn't bother taking. No way to tell if it was bandits or just travelers like you. The road gives up its secrets grudgingly. You sip tepid water from your skin, swishing grit from your teeth. Everything tastes like dust. Even your thoughts have gone grainy with it. Each one wearing the same track. Keep moving. Stay alert. Watch the tree line. Distant thunder rumbles, though the sky stays clear. Or maybe it's a quarry explosion miles away. Sound carries strangely on these straight roads. You catch yourself listening for anything, a cough, a jingle of harness, any proof you're not the last person left alive. The military built signal towers on some routes, but not this one. Too minor, too forgettable. Perfect for ambushes. Your sandal scrapes a stone, the noise absurdly loud. You wince at it, then movement. Far ahead, a speck resolves into a figure. Your pulse thrums in your throat until you see the stooped shoulders and slow gait. Just another traveler, probably. As jumpy as you are. Relief washes through you. Then wariness strangers can be dangerous too. But the slump of his pack says he's no threat. You adjust course slightly, giving him room to pass without speaking. His eyes flick to your knife, then away. 2 solitudes brushing against each other, then parting. The encounter leaves you, lonelier than before. The road curves slightly here, revealing a farmhouse in the distance. Smoke curls from its chimney, real this time. The sight should comfort you, But frontier farms have their own dangers. You weigh the risks, a night indoors versus sleeping by the road. Your feet decide for you, angling toward the first signs of civilization in hours. The farm's fences sag in places, but someone has mended the gate recently. A dog barks half-heartedly. You call out before getting too close, better to be heard before being seen. No answer comes, but the door creaks open a crack. You stand very still, hands visible, pulse hammering. A face peers out, weathered but not unfriendly. The silence stretches. Then a grunt, not quite welcome, but not refusal either. You'll take it. As you step forward, the dog sniffs your sandals and loses interest. The road stretches unseen behind you, already erasing your passage. Somewhere out there, another traveler walks alone, counting their steps, jumping at shadows. The door shuts with a thud that echoes both ways, locking the dangers out, locking you in with the blessed monotony of four walls and temporary safety. Tomorrow the road will still be there, just as empty, just as long. But for now, the loneliness lifts like a curtain. You breathe deeper than you have all day. The farmer's wife slides a clay cup across the table. It's cracked, but the wine inside smells real. That's enough. A stone marker leans in the dirt like a drunkard moss creeping up its base, the numerals worn smooth by centuries of passing hands. This is where you're supposed to rest. The Romans called these stops mansionese, a fancy name for a patch of hard-packed earth with a well that might not give water and a trough that definitely smells of stale piss. You drop your pack with a thud that doesn't echo because no one's around to hear it. The shade comes from a single oak tree, its leaves filtering sunlight into dizzy patterns on the ground. Someone's carved initials in the trunk DM was here. Probably regretted it immediately. A broken cartwheel leans against the tree like modern art, spokes missing like a skeleton's missing teeth. This isn't one of the nice mansionese with bathhouses and fresh hay. This is the kind where you hope the previous traveler didn't leave fleas in the dirt. You check the milestone first. The carving says 7, meaning 7 miles since dawn. 7 miles of blisters and dust, with 7 more until anything resembling civilization. The stone bears Emperor Hadrian's namesame as every other marker for the past 100 miles. His engineers built straight roads, but apparently never sat on. The roadside praying for feeling to return to their feet. Your water skins down the warm dregs. The well rope looks frayed, the bucket crusted with mineral deposits. It takes 8 tries before water finally gurgles up brown at first, then clearing to something you might risk drinking. Roman water. Safety meant holding your nose and hoping diarrhea wouldn't strike before the next stop. You swish a mouthful, spit rust-colored grit, then drink properly. The taste is equal parts metal and moss. A flat rock serves as your bench. The heat soaks through your tunic immediately. Across the road, a lizard flicks its tongue at ants swarming over last night's spill, maybe wine, maybe vomit. The ants don't care as long as it's sticky. You pull off your sandals to check the damage. 2 new blisters joined yesterday's crop. Roman medics recommended vinegar for foot sores, but your canteen holds only that metallic water. You soak a strip torn from your cloak and dab anyway. The sting makes you hiss through your teeth. Other travelers have left their marks, a burnt spot from a cooking fire, a pile of mule droppings not quite dry, a single bronze coin embedded in dirt, tails up, probably why it was abandoned. No benches, no shelters, just the oak's grudging shade that moves as the sun does. You time your break by the shadow creeping across the milestone. When it hits the numeral V, you'll walk again. Your bread has acquired the consistency of brick. Knowing it feels like punishment. The cheese rind in your pack smells questionable, but tastes worse. Romans seasoned their travel food with sheer desperation. You force it down while watching the road in both directions. Still empty. The isolation plays tricks. Was that a cart's creak in the distance? Just wind? A voice calling? Just a jay mocking you. The Mansionese system was built for imperial messengers who changed horses every 8 miles. For everyone else, it's just a reminder of how slowly ordinary people move through the world. You smear grease on your sandal straps, where they rub worst. The tin's nearly empty may be enough for one more day. The road won't care either way. Across the ditch, a cluster of wild onions grows. You rip one up, chewing the bitter greens for the illusion of a meal. Pliny wrote about roadside herbs keeping travelers healthy. Pliny also died in a volcanic eruption, so take his advice with a grain of Rome's famously overpriced salt. The onion makes your eyes water. You tell yourself, that's why. The shades moved past the V now. Time stretches weirdly in these pauses. 5 minutes feel like an hour. Then the whole stop flashes by. You lace your sandals slowly, dreading the first steps. The pack straps dig fresh grooves in your shoulders as you stand. That momentary. Relief is already fading. Every muscle protests when you straighten up. A speck appears down the road. Another traveler, another pack mule, another story you won't hear, because no one stops long enough to talk. You adjust your stride, aiming for the thin strip of slightly smoother stones near the road's edge. The next marker isn't visible yet, but you know it's there. They always are. A flutter of movement, the lizard's back, watching you go. It blinks slowly, wiser than any road engineer. You take your first step, then another. The dust coats your damp sandal straps immediately. By the time you pass the next oak tree, the rest stop might as well not exist. Only the road matters. Only the miles count. Your shadow stretches ahead, long and lean. The pack makes you hunch slightly. You'll walk like this for hours, until the next marker, the next patch of shade, the next dubious well. The rhythm resumes. Step, ache, breathe. The road never changes. The stops never last. You adjust your grip on the water skin and try not to think about how much lighter it feels now. The next well might be dry. The next marker might be broken. You walk anyway. A hawk circles overhead, riding thermals you can't feel down here in the dust. You watch it until your neck cramps. The bird doesn't care about roads or milestones. Or emperors. You envy its indifference as you put one foot in front of the other. The rest stop disappears behind a curve. Only the ache in your heels proves you stopped at all. The farmer's words hit your ears like stones tossed into mud. You hear the impact, but the meaning sinks without a trace. His dialect twists Latin vowels into shapes you don't recognize, consonants slurred by generations of isolation in these hills. He gestures at his cabbage patch with hands weathered like old leather, but whether he's offering food or warning you off, you can't tell. You try the standard traveler's Latin, carefully pronouncing each syllable. Quo. Vea ad proximum oppidum? The words feel stiff in your mouth. The farmer blinks. His reply might as well be in Punic. He drags a sandal through the dirt, sketching lines that could be roads or property boundaries or nothing at all. Romans built highways to connect provinces, but dialects fork faster than roads ever could. Some village 20 miles south says, wine, with an inflection that makes northerners smirk. His wife leans out the hut door, rattling off sentences that blur together into a single rhythmic hum. She could be reciting poetry, or curses the tone, stays flat either way. The goat beside her bleats, which honestly makes as much sense. You catch one word in 10, none helpful. Aqua might mean water. Pure could reference a sun, or the town you passed yesterday, or nothing relevant. The empire stretches for thousands of miles, yet collapses into fragments when you need simple directions. Hand gestures become your lingua franca. Pointing down the road earns a grunt. Holding up 2 fingers hours, miles, makes the man snort and spit. He mimes eating, and you nod eagerly until he names a price in sesterces you don't have. The negotiation dissolves into shrugs. His dialect lacks a word for charity, apparently. Goat dropping steam between your sandals. The most articulate thing here. Interpreters existed, if you could find them. Some innkeepers near garrison towns knew army Latin. Soldiers bastardized slang, bridged gaps when proper grammar failed. Out here, you rely on the universal language of frustration-exaggerated sighs. Exaggerated hand waves, the slow enunciation people use with infants and foreigners. The farmer's children giggle from the fence. Your Latin textbook never covered. This. The woman disappears inside, returns with a dented cup. The liquid inside smells like fermented disappointment. You sip anyway hydration outweighs dignity. The taste coats your tongue like rust. She says a word that might mean well or hell, while pointing northwest. You nod like you understand. Romans used writing when speech failed, but scratching. Directions in the dirt just gets you 2 symbols. A squiggle that could be a river, and a dot that might be the next market town, or a random freckle. Sound shifts with geography. Coastal traders clip words like sailors trimming sails. Hill folk drag syllables like plows through heavy soil. This family's speech has a lilt that turns every statement into a question. You parrot their tone experimentally. The children laugh harder. The goat loses interest. Then miracles exist. A figure appears on the road, walking with the stiff gait of someone who's carried messages before. His cloak bears dust from better-maintained highways. When you call. Out in Latin, he answers without missing a step, his consonants sharp as mile markers. The relief hits like removing a too tight sandal. The farmer and courier exchange sounds you'd swear aren't human language. The courier translates. He says the town's 3 miles west, but the bridge is out. There's a ford where the willows bend double. Don't drink the water if it smells like eggs. Simple survival advice, nearly lost because two dialects diverged like forked streams. The courier moves on, already forgetting you. The farmer watches him go, then turns back to his field. The interaction is finished, no goodbyes in any language. You adjust your pack, suddenly aware how much energy you'd burned just to extract basic information. Mental fatigue layers onto physical exhaustion like road dust on sweat. You take the westward path. The farmer's wife shouts something unintelligible. You wave, hoping it's not rude. Maybe she wished you safe travels. Maybe she insulted your mother. The road swallows the words either way. Later, at the willow-fringed crossing, you'll recall that courier's Latin like a lifeline. The water does smell faintly sulphurous. You hold your nose and wade in, grateful someone bridged the gap between confusion and survival. On the far bank, your wet sandals slap against stone, spelling out the same rhythm in any tongue. Step, drag, step, drag, step. The next village rises in the distance. Smoke trails suggest dinner fires. Your stomach growls in the one dialect everyone understands. You hike the pack higher and walk toward the certainty of new misunderstandings. At least Latin will work. There probably, most places, sometimes, a bird call echoes from the hills, sounding nothing like its counterpart from your hometown. You mimic it poorly. Nothing answers. The road stretches on, indifferent to all languages equally. The village appears like a mirage, a cluster of mud brick huts huddled around a dirt crossroads. No grand forum here, no marble columns. Just a dozen smoke-stained roofs and a single trough where two scrawny goats drink. The place smells like wet hay and last night's cook fire. You step off the road, hoping for something, anything, to break the monotony of walking. The first hut leans at an angle that defies physics. Its walls are packed earth streaked white from animal urine. A woman kneads dough in the doorway, her hands moving in the same rhythm as every other village baker across the empire. She doesn't. Look up as you pass. Roman villages weren't built for visitors. They were built for surviving winters and harvesting grain. The few people out at midday, an old man mending a fishnet, children chasing a half-bald chicken glance at you with the mild interest they'd show a stray dog. You find the market, if you can call it that. 3 rickety tables display wilted greens, a basket of eggs, and something unidentifiable swimming in brine. The vendor picks his teeth with a chicken bone. Prices here aren't marked there, negotiated through a series of grunts and hand waves. You point to the least suspicious loaf. He names a price that would buy better bread in Pompeii. The haggling lasts 3 rounds before you settle for a smaller loaf and keep walking. The well sits at the village center, its stones worn smooth by generations of ropes. The water smells faintly of sulfur, but tastes better than the metallic. Sludge from yesterday's stop. A girl no older than 10 draws water while balancing a baby on her hip. She eyes your sandals, city-made, with intact stitching, like they're exotic artifacts. You smile. She doesn't smile back. Rural Latin sounds different here. Vowels stretched and clipped in ways that make your request for directions sound like you're speaking through a mouthful of pebbles. A blacksmith's shed emits metallic pings. Inside, a man hammers a plow blade into submission. Sparks land on his leather apron, but don't catch. He could fix your sandal strap if you add coin. You don't, so he shrugs and goes back to work. Roman villages ran on barter as much as currency. Your city coins mean less here than a good wool cloak or a sharp knife. The smith's apprentice, maybe 12 years old, stares at your pack like it might contain treasures. It doesn't. Just damp clothes and a hardening lump of cheese. The tavern, if you're generous enough to call it, that is a dark room with 2 benches and a barrel of something that might be wine or vinegar. 3 locals play dice in the corner. They pause just long enough to size you up before returning to their game. No one offers you a drink. No one asks where you're headed. Travelers pass through every week. You're not special. The barkeep wipes a cup with his tunic sleeve. You decide against ordering anything. Children's laughter drifts from behind a hut. You follow it to find 4 kids tossing knuckle bones in the dirt. Their game looks complicated, with rules made up on the spot. They fall silent when you approach. One girl hides her bone behind her back, like you might confiscate it. You show empty palms and retreat. Rural kids learned early to distrust strangers. The empire's roads brought both trade and trouble. A chicken pecks at your sandal strap. You shoo it away, but it returns, determined to unravel the stitching. The village has no name plaque, no proud civic monuments. Just animal pens and storage pits, and the occasional carved symbol on a doorpost to ward off evil spirits. Someone's grandmother sits carding wool in a patch of sun, her fingers moving faster than her eyes can follow. She mutters a blessing, or a curse as you pass hard to tell which. A forge's bellows wheeze behind you. The baker's daughter slaps dough onto a stone. Nothing changes here except the seasons. You could stay the night if you begged hard enough, but the thought of sleeping in a stranger's hayloft makes your skin crawl. Better to walk until dusk and camp alone. At least the road doesn't pretend to welcome you. You adjust your pack and step back onto the stones. The village doesn't notice you leaving. The old man still mends his net. The chickens still scratch in the dirt. Only the blacksmith's apprentice watches you go, his face unreadable. Maybe he's imagining the road. Maybe he's glad he'll never have to walk it. The huts shrink. Behind you, their thatch roofs blending into the landscape. Within a mile, you could turn back and see nothing but trees. The road doesn't care about villages. It cuts through them without slowing down. Your feet find the familiar rhythm left, right, left, as the midday sun bakes your shoulders. A cart passes going the other way. The driver nods. You nod back. He'll reach the village by dusk, trade his goods for whatever they have to offer, and move on. The empire connected 1,000,000 lives this way, briefly and without ceremony. Your stomach growls. The village bread is already stale. You tear off a chunk and chew slowly, watching the road unwind ahead. The next village will be the same, and the one after that. The faces change, the dialects shift, but the rhythm stays. Constant. Arrive unnoticed, leave unremembered. The road swallows your footsteps as you walk. Somewhere behind you, a child laughs at a joke you'll never hear. The sun climbs higher. Your shadow grows shorter. The road continues. The dust rises in lazy clouds with every step, coating your sandals until they match the road's pale gray. It gets everywhere between your toes, under your nails, in the folds of your tunic where sweat makes it cling like a second skin. You cough, and the taste of pulverized stone lingers at the back of your throat. Roman roads were built to last, not to be comfortable. The stones grind together underfoot, releasing fine particles that hang in the air long after you've passed. Your sandals offer no protection. The straps rub dust into raw patches on your feet, the grit working its way deeper with every mile. The soles are thin enough that you feel every pebble, every uneven joint between stones. Archaeologists find sandals worn down to nothing in roadside ditches discarded when they became more whole than footwear. Yours aren't there yet, but they're getting close. The left one has a frayed strap that lets in extra dust with each step. The heat amplifies the dust's effects. Sweat turns it into a paste that cakes your legs, itching as it dries. You try wiping your face with your sleeve, but the fabric just smears the grime around. Your eyes sting. Roman medical texts warn about road dust causing inflammation of the eyelids, but they don't mention how it feels like sandpaper every time you blink. A cart passes, kicking up a fresh wave of grit. You turn your head too late, getting a mouthful of what tastes like crushed limestone and donkey droppings. Spitting helps, but the dust has already coated your teeth. It's in your ears too, little. Grains working their way into places they shouldn't be. You'll find it later in your pack, in your food, in the folds of your blanket. Dust doesn't discriminate. The road's construction makes it worse. Those carefully layered stones, big ones at the bottom, the gravel mix in the middle, the flat paving on top, they all break down over time. Weather and wheels grind them into powder that never quite settles. You walk on the remains of earlier travelers' journeys, their footsteps pulverized into the haze that now chokes you. Your breathing grows shallow, an instinctive attempt to avoid inhaling too much. It doesn't work. By midday, your throat feels lined with wool. Roman couriers wore cloth over their faces on dusty stretches, but you don't have that luxury. The best you can do is pull your tunic collar up, which mostly just makes you hotter. The dust changes color as the road does. Near quarries, it's pale and chalky. Through farmland, it takes on a reddish tint from the local clay. Today, it's somewhere in between a nondescript gray that manages to be everywhere at once. You watch it settle on your arms, a fine powder that reappears minutes after you brush it off. Your water skin is a quarter full, and you're saving. Most of it for the inevitable moment when thirst overcomes caution. A sip now just turns the dust in your mouth to mud. You swish it around, spit, and immediately taste grit again. The road wins every time. A mile marker appears through the haze. its numbers barely visible under the dust coating. You run a finger over the carved 7, clearing enough to confirm you've walked 7 miles since dawn. The stone feels gritty under your touch. Even. The milestones wear the road's residue. The dust gets into your pack, too. Your last piece of bread has a faint gray tinge to it now. You eat it anyway, chewing slowly to avoid crunching down on any particularly large particles. The cheese rind is beyond saving. You toss it to the roadside, where it disappears into the general filth. Foot traffic has worn slight grooves in the stones over the centuries. Your feet naturally follow these shallow tracks, like a cart with a stuck wheel. The rhythm becomes automatic. Left foot in the groove, right foot slightly higher on the camber, repeat. The dust puffs up with each step, a tiny cloud marking your progress. A faint sound cuts through the haze-running water. The dust seems to thin slightly ahead, suggesting a stream crossing. Your pace quickens despite your tired legs. The promise of clean water outweighs everything else now. The stream appears suddenly, a narrow ribbon of brownish water cutting across the road's path. A simple stone bridge arches over it, but you bypass that entirely, scrambling down the bank to where the water runs clearest. The dust on your hands turns to streaks of mud as you cup the water to your face. It's not cold, but it's wet, and right now that's enough. You drink deeply, ignoring the earthy taste. The water washes away some of the grit, though you'll be finding dust in your teeth for hours. Splashing your arms helps too, turning the gray coating into rivulets of dirty water that run down your elbows. The stream's bed is lined with smooth stones, worn down by centuries of flowing water. You sit on one, letting your feet soak. The dust floats away from your skin in little clouds, carried downstream to bother someone else. Fish dart in the deeper spots, undisturbed by your presence. They don't have to deal with road dust. Refreshed, you climb back up to the road. The dust starts settling on you immediately, but it feels different now, lighter, somehow. Maybe because you know there's more water ahead eventually. Or maybe because every traveler needs small victories to keep going. Your sandals squelch slightly as you walk, still damp from the stream. The dust won't cling as badly for the next few minutes. You'll take what you can get. The road stretches ahead, just as dusty as before, but your throat doesn't feel quite as raw. A lizard darts across your path, kicking up a tiny puff of dust with its claws. You watch it disappear into the scrub, envying its ability to leave the road behind. Your own feet keep moving forward, each step stirring up that familiar gray cloud. The stream's sound fades behind you, replaced by the crunch of grit underfoot. The next cart that passes doesn't even make you cough. You've gotten used to the dust, or it's gotten used to you. Either way, you walk on, leaving footprints that'll soon vanish under the next traveler's steps. The road doesn't care who walks it, only that someone always does. The stream's surface glitters invitingly, its clear water running smoothly over rounded stones. But you've been on the road long enough to know better. That clarity means nothing. Upstream could be a dead sheep rotting in the water, a tanner's workshop dumping chemicals, or just the usual mix of human and animal waste that finds its way into every Roman water source. Your throat burns with thirst, but your gut clenches at the thought of what might come with that first sip. Roman doctors knew about waterborne illnesses, even if they didn't understand bacteria. They warned travelers to avoid still water, to look for fast-moving streams, to boil when possible. None of which helps when you're standing here with a dry mouth and miles to go. Your water skin hangs nearly empty, the last warm dregs tasting of stale leather. The stream mocks you with its cheerful gurgle. You kneel at the bank, studying the water closer. Tiny particles swirl in the current, probably just sediment, possibly something worse. A water beetle skates across the surface, its shadow dancing on the stream. Roman medical texts list the consequences of bad water: bloody diarrhea, vomiting, fever that leaves you shaking by the roadside. The army lost more soldiers to dysentery than battle in some campaigns. You scoop a handful and let it trickle through your fingers. The choice is simple: drink and risk illness, or don't drink and collapse from thirst. The smart move would be to find wine instead. Romans often mixed water with wine, not just for taste, but because the alcohol made it slightly safer. Vinegar. Worked 2 soldiers used it to purify questionable water sources. You have neither. Just this stream and your growing dehydration. Your tongue feels thick in your mouth. The sun beats down, amplifying your thirst until it drowns out caution. You remember a trick from an old veteran at a wayside inn. Look for where animals drink. They usually know the safest spots. A set of hoof prints leads to a shallow bend upstream. That's something. Maybe. You shuffle along the bank, feet slipping on wet stones. The water looks no different here, but at least you're not drinking directly downstream of some unseen contamination. Roman engineers built aqueducts to bring clean water to cities, but out here on the road, you're back to basics. You consider your options. Drink straight from the stream like an animal. Use your hands as a makeshift cup, or risk your last clean. Cloth to filter the worst of it. The cloth wins. You tear a strip from your already ragged tunic hem, stretching it over the mouth of your water skin. It won't catch everything, but it might stop the visible floaties. The first few pores wash. Dust from the skin's interior. The water runs brown, then clears slightly. You wait for it to settle, watching particles drift to the bottom. Straining helps, but you know most dangers are invisible. The Romans blamed bad water on malaria, bad air, not understanding the real threats swimming in every sip. You hesitate, skin half full. One deep drink could mean days of stomach cramps or worse. But the alternative is stumbling onward with cotton mouth and dizziness. The decision makes itself. You raise the skin to your lips and take 3 measured swallows. The water tastes like wet stone and something faintly metallic. You hold it in your mouth before swallowing, as if your body could somehow test for poison. Nothing happens immediately. No burning, no strange aftertaste. Just cool relief spreading through your parched throat. You allow yourself a few more sips, then stop. Better to drink small amounts and wait than guzzle and regret it. The water sloshes in your stomach as you stand. Now begins the waiting game. You rinse your face for good measure, the cold shock clearing dust from your eyes. Tiny fish dart away from your shadow. They look healthy enough, another vaguely reassuring sign. Roman travelers used all sorts of questionable methods to test. Water, silver coins that supposedly tarnished in bad water, observing whether livestock avoided certain streams. None actually worked, but they gave the illusion of control. The water skin bulges slightly now, a comforting weight at your hip. You take one last look at the stream. It hasn't killed you yet, and turn back to the road. Every traveler faces this choice eventually. The smart ones learn from experience. The dead ones ... Well, they don't learn anything. Your stomach gurgles, but that could just be hunger. You'll know within a few hours if you made a mistake. For now, the immediate crisis has passed. The road stretches ahead, dusty and endless as ever. You take your first steps with renewed energy, the water's weight shifting with each movement. A bird calls from a nearby tree, maybe a good omen, maybe just a bird. You don't know enough local wildlife to tell. The important thing is you're moving again, hydrated enough to face the next miles. The stream's sound fades behind you, replaced by the crunch of your footsteps and the slosh of questionable water in your skin. You pass a withered bush clinging to the roadside. Its leaves are coated in the same dust that covers everything. Even plants can't escape the road's grime. You touch your tongue to your lips, still tasting that metallic tongue. Maybe it's just minerals. Maybe it's the first sign of trouble. Only time will tell. The next mile marker appears ahead, its carved numbers worn smooth by centuries of weather. You'll reach it before needing to drink again. By then, you'll know if this water was a mistake or a lucky break. The sun climbs higher, baking the stones until they shimmer. Your shadow keeps pace beside you, its edges blurred by heat haze. A cart passes going the opposite direction. The driver nods, but doesn't stop. He'll face his own water dilemmas soon. Enough. Everyone on this road makes the same calculations. Thirst versus safety, immediate need versus potential consequences. You adjust the strap on your water skin and keep walking. The decision's made. Now you live with it. The afternoon sun turns the road into a baking sheet. Your shadow shrinks beneath you as the heat climbs, until it's just a dark puddle stuck to your heels. Every mile looks the same now, same stones, same ditches, same scrubby bush clinging to the margins. You've been walking long enough that time blurs. Was that last mile marker 12 or 13? Doesn't matter. They're all identical anyway. Roman travelers measured days by the sun's arc, not hours. No ticking water clocks out here, just the slow crawl of your shadow across the stones. You've passed 6 milestones since dawn, which means roughly 6 hours walking. That's how the army did it, 1 Roman mile per hour, give or take. Soldiers could keep it up all day. Your civilian legs protest after 3. The cadence settles into your bones. Left, right, left, right. No need to think anymore. Your feet know the rhythm better than you do. The boredom gets heavy. You start noticing stupid details. The way that crack in the paving stone looks like a squinting eye. How the third bushback had exactly 14 leaves. Mental games pass the time. Count your steps between markers. Guess how many pebbles are in that pothole. Try to remember the opening lines of Virgil until they dissolve into nonsense in your head. Reciting poetry works until you run out of verses and you're back to counting breaths. Dust sticks to your sweaty neck. You swat at a fly that's been circling for the past mile. It dodges and comes right back. There's no winning against Roman road flies. They're faster, meaner, and more persistent than city ones. Your tunic chafes where the salt stains stiffen the fabric. The pack straps dig fresh grooves in your shoulders. 2 more hours until the next Mancio rest stop, if you're lucky. If it hasn't burned down or been overrun by bandits. The wagon ahead hasn't changed position in ages. You could swear you're walking in place, the landscape frozen around you. That same crooked tree, that same reddish rock. Maybe you died back at the stream, and this is Hades' punishment, an endless road with no landmarks. The thought almost makes you laugh. At least in hell there be variety. Your feet develop their own complaints. The left heel has a proper blister now, the right toe's gone numb from the cambered road slant. Roman sandals weren't meant for this kind of distance. You've seen wealthier travelers with proper boots, thick-soled things that lace up the ankle. All you've got are these leather straps rubbed raw by miles and dust. The next town had better have a cobbler. A lizard darts across your path, barely stirring the dust. You envy its speed, its purpose. Animals don't get bored. They don't count steps or talk themselves out of quitting. The lizard's gone before you can blink, vanished into the brush. You're still here, plodding along at the same pace you've kept since breakfast. The mind plays tricks in the afternoon haze. That rock ahead looks like a slumped figure until you're close enough to see it's just ... A rock, the wine merchant's. Cart had a red awning, didn't it? Or was that yesterday? Time stretches and snaps back like bad bread dough. You shake your head, but the fuzziness lingers. Maybe it's the heat. Maybe you're finally going road mad like the veterans at roadside taverns were about. A bird circling overhead casts fleeting shadows. You watch it ride thermals banking. On currents you can't feel down here in the dust. Its wings barely move, just slight adjustments to stay aloft. Effortless. You hate it a little. Your own wings are leaden legs pumping like a dumb machine. Left, right, left, right. The road won't walk itself. The next milestone appears like a gift. The numeral 14 is pocked by weather, but legible. 14 miles. That's something. You touch the stone as you pass, fingertips tracing centuries of other hands doing the same. The numbers comfort you, tangible proof you're getting somewhere, even if nowhere feels different. Shadows begin their slow stretch eastward. The light turns golden, softening the road's edges. Another hour, and you'll start looking for camp. Another hour after that, maybe an inn if the gods are feeling generous. For now, the rhythm holds. Step, drag, step, drag. The wagon wheels creak, syncs with your breath. A farmer's voice carries from a distant field, calling to someone you can't see. The sound reminds you that other people exist, that life continues beyond this strip of stones. Your throat's too dry to call back. The voice fades, leaving only the crunch of grit underfoot. The road curves slightly ahead, revealing nothing. No village, no rest stop, just more of the same endless straightaway. Your stomach growls. Dinners. Still hours away. A meager meal of hard bread and whatever's left in your pack. You adjust your straps again and keep walking. The afternoon won't end itself. Dust puffs with each footfall, a tiny explosion marking your progress. 14 miles down. Who knows how many to go? The sun dips lower, but the heat lingers in the stones beneath you. Your shadow finally starts lengthening, a timid thing stretching toward evening. You don't speed up. No point. The road sets the pace, and today it's chosen slow. Your left heel burns with every step. The blister that formed before noon has popped, leaving raw skin that rubs against your sandal strap. Threads from your sock worn thin weeks ago stick to the wound. Right foot isn't much better. 2 toes have gone numb from the road's constant slant. You try shifting your weight, but it just moves the pain somewhere else. Roman roads don't care about comfort. They're built for marching legions, not tender civilian feet. The sandals themselves are part of the problem. Cheap leather straps, barely thicker than parchment, chafe where they wrap around your ankles. Wealthy travelers wear caligae those. Hobnailed boots legionaries use, but yours came from a market stall in some forgotten village. The soles are wearing through near the ball of your left foot. You can feel every pebble through the thin spot. Tomorrow you'll stuff grass underneath, but today you just suffer. Road dust works its way between your toes like an abrasive powder. Your toenails have collected enough grime to plant a garden. You consider stopping to wash them in a ditch, but then you'd have to put those damp feet back in sandals, already stiff with dried sweat. A recipe for worse blisters. Best to keep moving and ignore it every mile, or so you adjust your stride. Limp on the left foot for 20 paces, then favor. The right. Try walking on the outer edges like a badly dressed patrician. Nothing helps for long. The pain just migrates to new muscles. Roman medical texts list remedies, vinegar soaks, honey poultices, wrapping feet in wool, but you've got none of that. Just road grit and determination your little toe has developed. Its own blister now. You feel it growing with each step, a hot little bubble of misery. The sandal strap saws across it mercilessly. Wealthy Romans had slaves to carry them in litters. You've got 2 feet and a growing hatred for perfectly straight roads. A wagon passes, its driver mercifully not offering a ride. The jolting would be worse than walking. You watch his wheels avoid the worst ruts and try to follow his path, but your feet aren't wheels. Potholes jar your knees no matter how carefully you step. The impact travels up your spine like a bad joke. You remember seeing an old veteran in a tavern once. He'd lost 2 toes to frostbite during some northern campaign. Feet are your first soldiers, he'd said, wiggling his remaining digits. Right now your soldiers are mutinying. The balls of both feet throb with what feels like bruised bones. Roman couriers could do 30 miles a day in boots designed for it. You're maybe halfway to 15 in footwear, better suited to dinner parties. Then distance. The next milestone appears through the heat haze. You touch it for luck, fingers brushing over the carved number. The stone feels cool for half a second before the sun's heat soaks through again. One foot and the other. Just keep moving. The army marched like this for centuries. You can manage one afternoon. Blisters aren't your only problem. The constant pounding has left your arches screaming. Tendons you didn't know you had twinge with every step. Your big toenail might be loosening. You're too afraid to check. Roman doctors wrote about travelers losing nails after long journeys. The poetic descriptions don't capture how much it stings. Your shadow stretches ahead now, longer than you are tall. At least the day's ending. Somewhere ahead lies an inn, or at least a patch of dirt softer than these paving stones. You try not to think about tomorrow's first steps when everything stiffens overnight. A farmhouse appears in the distance. Smoke curls from its chimney. Someone's cooking something. Bread, maybe meat. The smell would make your mouth water if your whole body didn't ache too much to care. You focus on putting one foot in front of the other. Doesn't matter which hurts less. They both hurt. Your little toe's blister bursts. The sudden sting makes. You suck air through your teeth. Fluid soaks into your sock. That's going to chafe worse tomorrow. You glance back at the road behind you. Miles of stones and dust and pain. Ahead looks the same, just with slightly darker shadows now. The farm. Dog barks as you approach. Its paws are tough from running these roads bare. You envy their thick pads. The farmer eyes your limp, but says nothing. No one asks why travelers hobble. It's the default state out here. You'll sleep hard tonight, and tomorrow you'll do it. All again. Feet harder, blisters calloused, patience worn thinner than your sandal straps. One more mile to the inn, if your reckoning's right. Maybe two. The road stretches on either way, indifferent to your suffering. You adjust your pack straps anything to shift the weight off your feet for a second and keep walking. The pain's not going anywhere. Neither are you. Might as well get acquainted. The light flickers in the distance. Just a pinprick at first, barely visible through the dusk. Then it resolves into the unmistakable glow of an oil lamp hung outside a doorway. Your pace quickens before you can stop yourself. That light means walls, a roof, maybe even a bed that doesn't double as an insect buffet. The road's gravel crunches louder underfoot as you hurry toward it. Your blisters, temporarily forgotten Romang inns, weren't marked with neon signs. If you were lucky, there'd be a painted board showing a horse or a cup. This one's got a chipped clay lamp dangling from a hook, its flame guttering in the evening breeze. The building itself is what you expected, whitewashed walls gone. Gray with road dust, a thatched roof patched with mismatched reeds. Smoke trickles from a hole near the peak. Someone's cooking or trying to. The smell hits you before you reach the door. Stale wine, onions, and the underlying musk of too many unwashed bodies in one place. You pause at the threshold. This could go either way. Maybe the innkeeper's the type who waters his wine and counts the coins in your purse while you sleep. Maybe the beds have fleas. Maybe the stew is just hot water with a carrot floating in it. But your feet hurt. Your pack straps have sawed fresh grooves in your shoulders, and the alternative is sleeping in a ditch. You push the door. Open got the common rooms, exactly what you pictured: low ceiling, packed earth floor, a fire pit sending more smoke into the room than up the chimney. 3 tables, 2 occupied. A merchant type nurses a cup of something, while his bodyguard glowers at the room. In the corner, a pair of local farmers argue over a dice game. The innkeeper looks up from wiping a cup with his tunic sleeve. His expression says he's seen 1,000 travelers just like you, and you're all equally forgettable. Roman law required innkeepers to register guests, but you doubt this one bothers unless the magistrate's in town. He sizes you up with a glance: your sandals, your pack, the way you favor your left foot. The assessment takes 3 seconds. Then he names a price that's twice what locals pay, but half what he'd charge someone who looked wealthier. You counter with 1/3 of his offer. He pretends to think about it. The negotiation follows the usual script. You mention the rival. In 2 miles up the road, whether it exists or not. He claims his beds have fresh straw. They don't. You point to the dubious stain on the wall near the fire pit. He shrugs and knocks a copper coin off the price. Deal struck. The room key is figurative, more like a verbal promise that no one will steal your stuff while you sleep. Not that you have much worth stealing. The room is a curtained-off alcove with a straw pallet barely wider than your shoulders. The blanket smells like the last dozen people who used it. You drop your pack and press a hand to the pallet. At least it's dry. That puts it in the top 1/3 of beds you've slept in this month. Back in the common room, the evening meal's being served. You know better than to expect the advertised pork stew. What arrives is a wooden bowl of lukewarm pottage barley, a few lentils, maybe a shred of meat so overcooked it could be anything. The bread's the usual road-in quality, hard enough to chip teeth, with a crust that could double as roof tiles. You dunk it in the pottage and hope the moisture will make it edible. The wines predictably. Bad vinegar with delusions of grandeur. You sip it anyway, because the water here is even riskier. The merchant's bodyguard belches loudly. One of the farmers laughs at something. The fire pops, sending up a shower of sparks. It's not home, but it's not the road. And right now, that's enough. A dog wanders in from the kitchen area, sniffing for scraps. Its ribs show through its mangy coat. You toss it a bit of bread crust, which it swallows whole before staring at you with hopeful eyes. No luck, mutt. You need every calorie you can get. The pottage leaves a film on your tongue that the wine can't cut through. The innkeeper's wife clears the bowls with the efficiency of someone who's done this every night for 20 years. She doesn't ask if you enjoyed the meal. The question would be absurd. Food's fuel here, not pleasure. You're just glad it didn't make you gag. Upstairs, the beds are filling up. A snore rattles through the thin partition wall to your left. Someone coughs weightily on the other side. The straw crunches under you as you sit, releasing a cloud of dust and the faint, sweet smell of mice. You pull off your sandals and inspect the damage. 2 fresh blisters, plus the old ones that never quite healed. Tomorrow's walk will be agony, but that's tomorrow. Tonight, there's a roof, 4 walls, and the distant comfort of not being the only target if bandits storm the place. You stretch out on the pallet, boots tucked under your head as a makeshift pillow. The blanket's scratchy wool makes you itch immediately. Somewhere downstairs, a chair scrapes across the floor. The innkeeper barks at the dog to get out. Lamp outside casts flickering shadows through the cracks in the shutters. They dance across the ceiling in patterns that almost look intentional. You watch them blur as your eyes grow heavy. The road's still out there, waiting. But for now, the darkness smells like smoke and old straw instead of dust and sweat. The pallet creaks as you turn onto your side. Down the hall, someone starts snoring in earnest, a wah, rhythmic sawing noise that would keep you awake if you weren't so exhausted. As it is, the sound blends with the inn's other nighttime noises. The settling of old timbers, the scuttle of something small in the thatch, the distant clank of a pot in the kitchen. You pull the blanket up to your chin. It smells like generations of road grime, but it's warm. The pillow's lumpy, but it's better than a rock. The blisters will still be there in the morning, but for now they don't matter. Somewhere far off, a wolf howls. Closer by, the dog answers with a half-hearted bark. The innkeeper shouts for quiet. You close your eyes. The light still burns outside, guiding the next traveler in, but that's their problem now. Yours is sleep. The innkeeper's wife slaps a wooden bowl in front of you again. Inside swirls a grayish slurry that might be barley, might be lentils. Definitely isn't what anyone would call stew. It's lukewarm, not hot enough to scald your tongue, not cold. Enough to excuse its sliminess. A single shred of something meat-like floats near the edge. Pork? Mutton? Yesterday's mystery meat? You poke it with your spoon, and it sinks without protest. The bread beside it could double as a roof tile. Hard, flat, flecked with bran. You break off a corner, and it snaps clean like dry clay. No yeast rose in this dough. Roman soldiers called this type panes militaris, but at least they got oil or vinegar to dip it in. You're working with spit and desperation. The crust tears at the roof of your mouth as you chew. Archaeologists find Roman teeth worn down from exactly this kind of bread, their molars ground flat by decades of grit. The pottage coats your spoon. Like paste. It tastes like wet burlap with a faint earthy undertone, probably from the lentils, possibly from the pot it's been simmering in since last market day. Roman cooks kept their stew pots going continuously, just adding new ingredients. As the level dropped, this batch smells like it's been on the fire since the reign of Augustus. You stir, hoping to uncover something identifiable. A chunk of onion appears, then disappears back into the murk dot. No spices here. Pepper cost more than your sandals back. In Rome, what you get is a pinch of salt, so coarse it crunches between your teeth, and maybe some wilted herbs the kitchen girl grabbed from the courtyard yesterday. The flavors don't blend so much as take turns offending your tongue. a bite of soil, a hint of wood smoke, then nothing until the next spoonful reminds you why you're not hungry anymore. The wine isn't wine. It's vinegar's ugly cousin, thin, sour stuff that makes your eyes water after half a sip. The innkeeper waters it from the same questionable well your soup probably came from. You drink it anyway because the alternative is drinking nothing, and dehydration headaches made tomorrow's walk even worse. At least the alcohol content, however minimal, might kill some of whatever's swimming in your gut. Across the room, a merchant picks at his meal with more money than sense. He's got actual cheese on his bread and what looks like a dried fig. You watch him eat while pretending not to watch. Your own bowl empties too quickly despite the taste. Hunger's the best sauce, as the saying goes, but even hunger gives up sometimes. Your stomach growls, but your tongue's ready to revolt. The kitchen dog wanders over, ribs visible through its patchy fur. It sniffs your bowl, then looks at you with disappointed eyes. Even stray animals have standards. You push the dish aside, and it licks the rim clean in 3 seconds flat. Maybe canine taste buds are more forgiving. Maybe this mutt's just that desperate. Chewing the last of your bread takes concentration. Jaw muscles ache from the effort. The Romans had special mills to grind flour fine enough for decent bread, but roadside inns used whatever coarse grain was cheapest. Each bite feels like eating sand. You soften it with watered-down wine, which just makes it taste like sour sand. Historians argue about what exactly went into Roman travelers' stews. Barley, certainly. Beans when available. Maybe turnips or leeks if the cook was feeling generous. Your version tonight seems to be mostly broth with occasional surprises. A bit of gristle here, a pebble there. You fish out a suspicious clump that might be congealed fat or might be something worse. It goes back in the bowl. The fire pit's smoke curls up to the rafters, carrying smells that almost mask the food's shortcomings. Almost. A hunk of something that might be ham hangs near the chimney, swaying slightly in the draft. It's been there a while, darkened at the edges, shiny with old grease. Tomorrow's breakfast, probably. Tonight's regret, if you're unlucky. Your spoon scrapes the bowl's bottom. The sound echoes louder than it should in the quiet room. Other diners push their food around with similar enthusiasm. One farmer sucks broth from his beard. The merchant's guard belches loudly. The innkeeper's wife collects bowls with the efficiency of someone who's never eaten her own cooking. No dessert. Obviously. No after-dinner treats unless you count the gritty residue on your teeth. Wealthy Romans finished meals with honeyed fruits or nuts. You get to pick barley husks from your molars and contemplate how hungry you'll be by morning. The guard gnaws on a chicken bone salvaged from somebody else's plate. You envy his lack of standards. The fire dies down slowly, taking what little warmth the meal offered with it. Grease congeals in your empty bowl, forming abstract patterns under the flickering lamplight. The innkeeper yawns loudly, remang for pay up or get out. You leave 2 copper coins on the table, knowing they'll buy you the same sad meal tomorrow if you're still here. Sleep sounds better than this. At least dreams might include food that doesn't taste like resignation. You step over the kitchen. Dog, now licking the floor where someone spilled stew last week. The stairs creak underfoot as you climb to your rented pallet, hunger and revulsion fighting a draw in your gut. Tomorrow's walk will be hard on an empty stomach. Tonight's sleep will be restless. The fire pops its last ember as you reach the landing. Somewhere below, the innkeeper's wife dumps the remaining stew back into the eternal pot. It'll simmer until breakfast, gaining whatever character the night's scrapings provide. You lie down on your straw mattress, tasting bile and barley at the back of your throat. The ceiling beams creak in the darkness. Tomorrow's meal will be the same, and the day after that. The road offers no culinary adventures, just variations on endurance. Mouse scuttles across the floorboards, heading for crumbs you didn't leave. You close your eyes and try not to think about breakfast. The inn settles around you, full of chewing sounds and quiet curses. The bread in your pack has gone stale, but you'll eat it anyway when dawn comes. For now, silence tastes better than anything in your bowl did. The night smells like smoke and old grease, and you're too tired to care. The straw mattress dips dramatically when the fourth traveler climbs in beside you. There's no introduction, just a grunt and the sound of a pack hitting the floor. The bed was barely wide enough for two, but Roman innkeepers packed guests. And like olives in a jar, your elbow digs into someone's ribs. They shift away, dragging half the thin blanket with them. Privacy doesn't exist here. The room is just a curtained-off corner of the common area, the pallet resting directly on packed earth. 3 others already occupy it, a merchant's assistant who smells of garlic, a drover with a persistent cough, and someone whose breath suggests they've been drinking since noon. You lie stiff as a board, trying not to touch anybody. The straw prickles through your tunic. Historians estimate average Roman sleeping spaces measured about 2 feet wide per person. Tonight you're testing that math. The snoring starts immediately. The drunkard produces a rhythmic sawing noise that vibrates through the shared mattress. The merchant's assistant counters with nasal whistles on the exhale. Between them, the drover twitches like a dog chasing rabbits in its sleep. His knee jabs your thigh with every dream-bound lunge. Roman medical texts actually recommended sleeping on your right side for health good luck, explaining that to your bedmates. The straw isn't fresh. It crackles with every movement, releasing dust that tickles your nose. Something small scurries through it near your feet mouse, or cockroach. You don't investigate. Travelers complained about vermin so often that Roman satirists wrote jokes about inns renting beds by the flea. The blanket smells like every body that's ever used it. You pull it up to your chin anyway, because the night air carries a chill. Drunkard rolls over, his arm flopping across your chest like a dead fish. You nudge it off, but it returns twice as heavy. His breath heats your cheek, a sour mix of cheap wine and rotten teeth. Roman sleeping arrangements followed strict social rules at home, but roadside inns flattened all hierarchies. Senators, soldiers, and slaves would have shared beds just like this, united in mutual discomfort. A hiccup jolts the mattress. Someone belches in their sleep. The straw rustles as bodies shift, searching for space that doesn't exist. Your hip bone presses against the wooden bed frame. The merchant's assistant mumbles in Greek, probably cursing your elbow in his ribs. Archaeologists find Roman inns had communal rooms divided by curtains at best, more often just open spaces. With rows of pallets, privacy cost extra. You didn't pay extra. The drover's cough returns with a vengeance. Each hack shakes the entire bed. He sits up, spits into the dark, then collapses back down like a sack of grain. The impact sends a puff of straw, dust into your face. You stifle a sneeze. Roman travelers wrote about these nights in letters home. The bed was harder than my ship's deck, one complained, and my companions louder than the market. A flea bites your ankle. You scratch without thinking, which only makes it worse. The drunkard starts muttering about someone named Lucius owing him money. His knee digs into your calf. The blanket's wool scratches your neck where the rough stitching rubs. Military barracks offered more personal space than this, and soldiers at least bathed occasionally. Roadside inns were the ancient equivalent of bus station waiting rooms, places you endured, never enjoyed. The candle gutters out in the main room, plunging your corner into darkness thicker than the inn's wine. Someone's sandals lie half under the pallet, their leather straps poking your shoulder. The drover's twitching intensifies. His foot catches the blanket, yanking it sideways. You consider sleeping on the floor, but the packed earth feels like stone and probably hosts more bugs than the mattress. Exhaustion eventually overcomes discomfort. Your muscles unlock one by one, surrendering to the mattress's questionable embrace. The snores blend into a bizarre symphony, drunkard's bass rumble, merchant's reedy whistles, drover's occasional snorts. Your neighbor's arm weighs less when you're too tired to care. The straw stops itching after a while, or maybe you just stop feeling it. Dawn seems impossibly far away. The night stretches before you, measured in coughs and rustling straw and the occasional muffled curse. Somewhere outside, an owl calls. The inn's roof beams creak as they cool. The drunkard rolls again, his arm finally sliding off you. 4. A blessed moment. The bed almost feels spacious. Then the drover starts kicking again. His bare heel connects with your shin. You hiss through your teeth. He murmurs an apology without waking up. The straw crackles as you shift onto your side, back pressed against the wall. The plaster feels cool through your tunic. Your eyelids grow heavy despite everything. The merchant's assistant mutters something that might be a prayer or a shopping list. The drunkard sighs like a deflating wineskin. The blanket settles into place, scratchy but warm. Your breathing slows to match the others. The night envelops the room in a kind of truce. No one's comfortable, but everyone's too. Tired to fight it anymore. The last thing you hear before sleep takes you is the sound of the inn's dog scratching at fleas in the courtyard. Its nails scrape against stone in the same rhythm as your bedmate's breathing. The noise blends with the distant hush of the road outside, where another traveler might be walking through the dark toward the same miserable bed. Morning will come soon enough, bringing its own discomforts. For now, the snores surround you like a lullaby. The straw mattress feels almost tolerable, and the shared warmth of 4 bodies takes the edge off the night chill. The last flea bite doesn't even itch anymore. Or maybe you're just too exhausted to notice. The room falls quiet at last, save for the drunkard's occasional mumbling and the creak of the inn's old timbers settling. Outside, the first birds begin their dawn chorus. The drunkard farts in his sleep. The smell lingers briefly before, dissipating into the general miasma of the room. You don't have the energy to care. Sleep drags you under at last, blotting out the scratchy blanket, the lumpy mattress, the stranger's elbows in your ribs. Tomorrow's blisters can wait. Tonight, unconsciousness is the only escape you get. The inn's timbers groan as they cool in the night air. Each creak sounds like a footstep just outside the curtained doorway. You lie still, listening to the buildings settle wood protesting against wood, rafters shifting under their own weight. The noise might just be contraction from the evening chill. Or maybe someone's moving around out there. Roman inns didn't have locks, just privacy curtains that fluttered with every draft dot an owl calls somewhere beyond the courtyard. The sound carries clearly through the thin shutters, hoots sharp enough to cut through the drunkard's snoring. Night birds were omens in Roman superstition. Good or bad depended on which side of the road they perched. This one's too distant to tell. The call comes again, unanswered. Somewhere a mouse scuttles between the walls, its tiny claws scratching against plaster. Downstairs, the kitchen dog whines in its sleep. Paws twitch against flagstones as it dreams of chasing something. The sound blends with the snores, coming from your shared palate. At least the dog's noises are predictable, unlike the drunkard who keeps muttering about debts and dice games. His words slur into the straw, barely audible over the merchant's assistant's nasal whistling. Outside, the wind picks up. It rattles the shutters in their frames, the wood tapping a irregular rhythm against the wall. Roman joinery wasn't precise gaps. Around windows let in drafts and noise in equal measure. The breeze carries distant sounds. A goat bleating in someone's yard, the creak of a well pulley, the far-off yip of what might be a fox. Normal countryside noises. Probably dot closer by. Floorboards protest under unseen weight. The innkeeper doing rounds. Another guest stumbling to the latrine. The steps pause near your curtain. Your breath catches. Then the sound moves on, heading toward the back courtyard. A door latch clicks. The night air carries the unmistakable sound of a man relieving himself against a wall. The stream seems to last forever before fading into general dripping. Your mattress shifts as the drover rolls over. His elbow finds your ribs with unerring accuracy. He doesn't wake. The straw underneath you crackles, releasing a musty smell of old sweat and mildew. Roman mattresses were just cloth sacks, stuffed with whatever vegetation was handy straw. Leaves, sometimes seaweed in coastal towns. This one's filler has seen better seasons. Something small and many-legged crawls across your ankle. You flick it away without investigation. The night embraces the inn in layers of sound. The rasp of the drunkard's breathing. The whisper of the kitchen dog's tail thumping stone. The occasional metallic ping from the cooling hearth downstairs. Each noise pulls you back from the edge of sleep. Travelers wrote about these fractured nights, brief moments of rest between unfamiliar sounds and physical discomfort. The road didn't end at sundown. It seeped into your dreams. Water dripped somewhere in the courtyard. The steady plink-plink against stone starts to form a rhythm with the merchant assistant's snores. You count the intervals. Drip snore, drip snore. The pattern holds for 7 repetitions before the wind changes and the dripping speeds up. Roman engineering could bring water across valleys, but couldn't stop a leaky rain barrel. A cart rumbles by on the distant road. The sound carries further at night, wooden wheels bouncing over ruts, harness leather creaking. Someone's making late progress or very early departure. The noise fades gradually, leaving behind only the ever-present insects chirping in the thatch overhead. Crickets, maybe, or something more nefarious. Roman pest control involved cats, traps, and crossed fingers. The drunkard jerks awake with a snort. He groans, clutches his head, then flops back onto the pallet. His sandal smacks your shin on, though. Way down, the mattress jostles everyone as he settles. Someone, probably the drover, grumbles in a dialect too thick to parse. 5 minutes pass before the snores start up again, this time with a bubbling quality that suggests impending nasal disaster. Dawn's still hours away, but the night has begun its slow fade. The blackness beyond the shutters softens to charcoal. At the edges, sounds become more distinct as the world wakes. A rooster's premature crow, the scrape of a shutter opening downstairs, the innkeeper's wife humming as she builds the breakfast fire. The noises should be comforting. Instead, they underscore how little rest you've actually gotten. Your muscles ache from lying rigid all night. The straw has left crosshatch marks on your forearm where you pressed against it too long. The blanket smells worse now that morning dampness activates its various odor: sweat, spilled wine, generations of road dust. You sit up carefully, avoiding elbows and knees. The drunkard mumbles incoherently, but doesn't wake. Light seeps through. The shutters cracks, painting faint gold stripes on the opposite wall. The stripes brighten as you watch, marking time as surely as a sundial. Somewhere a donkey brays, its hee-haw cutting through the last remnants of nighttime quiet. The innkeeper's wife drops a pot lid. Metal rings against stone, the sound sharp enough to make the drover jerk awake. Your neck pops when you turn it. The bed creaks ominously as you extricate yourself from the tangle of limbs and wool. Outside, the world is waking, birds now fully committed to their morning chorus, a servant drawing water from the well, the first carts of the day rolling past on the road. The drunkard snores through it all. His face looks almost peaceful in the thin light. You rub grit from your eyes. Last night's dread of thieves and bad omens seems foolish in daylight. The inn is just an inn, shabby, but ordinary, full of ordinary people sleeping off ordinary journeys. The night sounds were never threats, just the normal symphony of a building too old to stay quiet. The kitchen smells of burning porridge and yesterday's grease. You step over the dog, now awake and licking itself with dedication. The courtyard. Air tastes damp and cool. Dawn has properly broken now, washing the world in pale gold. Another day on the road stretches ahead, as endless as yesterday's and the day before's. But for this moment, standing barefoot on cold stones, there's just the simplicity of morning. The drunkard belches loudly inside. The moment passes. You wake stiff, sore, and already exhausted before your feet touch the floor. Every joint protests as you sit up on the straw mattress. The drunkard's elbow left a bruise on your ribs. The drover's twitching kicked your shins purple. Your spine crackles like roasting nuts as you stretch. Roman beds didn't believe in comfort, just horizontal surfaces slightly softer than the road. Stiff fingers pull on your sandals. The left one's strap needs retying after last night's mystery creature chewed it. Blisters from yesterday wink at you between the laces, some popped, some swollen tight. You poke a particularly angry one. It throbs in response. The army trained soldiers to hike 30 miles a day. Civilians like you just suffer. The courtyard well provides water that's cold enough to shock you awake. Splashing your face scrubs away sleep, but not the dull headache from last night's vinegar. Wine. Your reflection in the bucket shows dark circles under your eyes. Road dust has settled into your pores permanently. Roman hygiene on the move meant clean enough to not itch. You're failing even that low bar dog breakfast is the same as yesterday's stale bread, with yesterday's grease congealing in thee. Cracks. The innkeeper's wife offers watery porridge that sticks to the bowl like plaster. You eat standing up because sitting hurts too much. The bread could double as a weapon. Archaeologists find Roman teeth worn down to stumps from diets like this. You gnaw carefully, knowing your molars don't grow back. Your pack needs restocking. The cheese rind went moldy overnight. The bread's harder than the pavement outside. At least your water skin holds liquid without leaking small victories. You count coins in your palm, while the merchant across the courtyard haggles loudly over dried figs. Prices double when they see traveler's dust on your tunic. The negotiation takes 3 rounds before you walk away with half a loaf and regret. Your sandals becomes a morning ritual right foot first, pulling straps tight enough to stay on, but loose enough to not cut off circulation. The left one gets extra padding where yesterday's blister popped. Romans designed these straps to last about 200 miles. You're on mile 180, and it shows. The right sole has worn thin over your big toe. Another day will fix that. The innkeeper's tally stick shows what you owe 2 nights' stay, 2 meals, and a suspicious betting fee that definitely goes in his pocket. You pay without arguing because the road awaits, and your energy's better spent walking than fighting. He nods toward the stable when you mention buying a mule. The beast available has ribs showing and a lazy eye. Price, 3 times what it's worth. You stick to walking. Morning light slants across the courtyard, marking time. Should have left an hour ago. Should have stayed in bed. Should have picked a different road entirely. Too late now. The highway stretches westward, same as yesterday, same as tomorrow. You adjust your pack straps where they dig into collarbones. The weight never sits right first thing. A quick piss against the stable wall marks your territory as well as any. Dogs. The inn's cat watches from atop a barrel, judging. Roman travelers carried chamber pots for modesty, but roadside stops didn't bother with niceties. You kit dirt over the spot like everyone else does. The cat yawns unimpressed. Last check. Knife at your belt, coin purse tucked inside your tunic, waterskin topped off. The inn's dog sniffs your pack hopefully. You show empty hands. It trots away toward better prospects. The gate creaks as you push through it, back onto the stones. The wagon driver from yesterday's sitting on his bench, same as ever. His mule flicks ears at flies. The left wheel still wobbles. He jerks a thumb backward room for one more. You almost consider it before remembering yesterday's spine-rattling ride. Better sore feet than a shattered tailbone. You shake your head. He shrugs and whistles at the mule. First steps are the worst. Muscles remember yesterday's abuse and stiffen in protest. Each footfall sends jolts up your legs. The road stretches ahead, its stones already warming under the rising sun. 1 mile in, everything will loosen up. Until then, it's gritted, teeth and shallow breathing. A crow picks at something near the ditch, maybe roadkill, maybe yesterday's discarded bread. It eyes you as you pass, deciding if you're close enough to death yet to be interesting. You kick a pebble toward it. The bird hops aside with offended dignity. The road does that to everyone eventually. Your shadow stretches long ahead of you, thin and wavering in the morning light. It matches your pace perfectly, never tiring, never slowing. The only companion who'll walk every step with you today. You adjust your pack again, the straps still chafing. It'll stop mattering in a few miles when everything else hurts worse. The first milestone appears sooner than expected. The carved numeral stands crisp in the morning light, nowhere yet today to blur the edges. Your sandals scuff against gravel. As you pass it, 1 mile down. Only 19 more until tonight's equally awful bed. The wagon ahead hits a pothole with customary violence. The driver curses. The mule flicks its tail. Everything's exactly as it was yesterday, and the day before, and every day since Rome decided straight lines beat comfort. You adjust your pace to match the wheel's wobble. Left, right, left, right. The rhythm takes hold. An hour in. The stiffness fades to background noise. Your feet go numb in the best possible way. The pack settles into a groove between your shoulder blades. The road stretches ahead, same damned stones, same damned camber, same damned everything. You stop noticing. That's when you know you've properly started. The morning routine fades behind you. The soreness, the bad food, the negotiations with innkeepers. None of it matters now. Just the next step and the one after that. The sun climbs higher. Your shadow shrinks. The wagon's creak fades into the distance. You walk. The road doesn't change. That's the first thing you notice on the third morning. Same stones, same ditches, same rhythm of your sandals hitting the pavement. Left, right, left, right. You could close your eyes and still know exactly where. You are. The sun rises in the same spot, warms your neck at the same angle, casts shadows of the same length. Even the dust tastes familiar. Your mind starts playing tricks. That milestone ahead, haven't you passed it before? The cracked one with the bird's nest tucked into its side? No, that was yesterday. This one's just identical. Roman engineers built roads to last, not to entertain. The straight lines don't curve for scenery or landmarks. They cut through hills and valleys with bureaucratic indifference. Your feet follow suit, marching in obedient lines like a reluctant legionary. The monotony gets under your skin. You count steps between mile markers until the numbers lose meaning. You name rocks, flat one, angry one, the one that looks like your uncle. None of it helps. The road still stretches ahead, unwavering. Soldiers could march 30 miles a day like this. You're struggling with 15. What kept them going? Probably the threat of decimation. You only have your own weak will to motivate you. Sound becomes your sole entertainment. The crunch of grit underfoot, the distant bleat of a goat, the same creak in your left sandal that's been there since the second day. With no conversation or music, these tiny noises take on outsized importance. You catch yourself listening for variations in the wagon wheel's song, any break in the pattern. None come. The rhythm is as fixed as the stars. Your thoughts turn inward. There's nowhere else for them to go. At first you revisit old arguments, replay conversations you should have ended differently. Then even that grows tedious. Your mind empties like a tipped water skin. The philosopher Seneca wrote about using travel for contemplation, but he rode in a litter. Try deep thinking when every third step sends a jolt of pain up your blistered heel. You pass a withered tree that must have been struck by lightning years ago. Charred bark still clings to its trunk. Tomorrow, you'll pass another just like it. The day after that, another. Roman roads specialize in déjà vu. Occasionally, you see evidence of other travelers. A scrap of cloth tied to a branch, initials scratched into a milestone. These tiny rebellions against anonymity fade quickly. The road wears them down like everything else. Midday brings no relief. The sun hangs directly overhead, erasing your shadow. Without that small proof of progress, you might as well be standing still. Heat shimmers make the road ahead ripple like water. You blink hard, but the illusion holds. For one mad moment you consider running toward it. Then your heel reminds you why that's a terrible idea. The military kept soldiers moving with strict routines. March, rest, march. Eat at set times. Sing marching songs in unison. You have no such discipline. Your schedule depends entirely on how long you can ignore your screaming feet. Rest breaks come when you can't walk another step, not when some officer blows a whistle. There's no camaraderie either, just you and the occasional indifferent farmer passing with his mule dot by afternoon. Something shifts. The pain doesn't lessen. The road doesn't get shorter. But the struggle becomes familiar, almost comfortable. Your body settles into the misery like an old friend. Left, right, left, right. The rhythm stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling inevitable. This is simply what your life is now, one foot after another, until you reach wherever you're going. The historian Tacitus wrote about Roman soldiers complaining of boredom more than battle wounds. You finally understand why. At least in battle, There's adrenaline. On the road, there's just the next step, and the next, and the next. You start measuring time in blisters rather than hours. 3 new ones since morning. That's your clock dot as the sun dips lower. You notice the shadows lengthening differently today. Not because the road has changed, but because you've moved across the landscape. The realization is startling. You are making progress, however imperceptible. The horizon still looks the same, but you're not the same person who started walking this morning. Your feet are harder. Your mind is quieter. The road has worn away some softness you didn't know you had. A bird circles overhead, riding thermals. You can't feel. You watch it until your neck cramps. The bird doesn't care about roads or milestones. It cuts straight across curves the engineers spent months surveying. For a moment, you resent its freedom. Then you lace your sandals tighter and keep walking. The road goes ever on, and so must you. The sky pinks toward evening. Your shadow stretches long ahead of you, a thin companion keeping steady pace. Tomorrow, you'll wake and do this again. The stones won't care. The milestones won't cheer. But somewhere far ahead, the road does end. Not today. Maybe not soon. But eventually. That faint hope is all you have, so you cling to it as the last light. Fades. Left, right, left, right. The rhythm continues. You continue. The road cares for neither. The Roman road taught you patience through every blister and mile marker. No instant updates, no roadside diners, just relentless pacing toward distant horizons. That steady plod still lingers in your bones, a phantom rhythm of grit and endurance. Modern comforts would have stunned ancient travelers. We snack while speeding past landscapes they trudged for weeks. Our beds don't crawl with insects. Our water doesn't smell like sulfur. History's monotony makes today's luxuries shine brighter dot, so let that creaking wagon wheel lull you to sleep. The road's gone now, paved over by time, but its slow heartbeat remains. Sweet dreams, traveler. The journey's finally over.